Notice of demand to deliver the body, habeas corpus. This document serves as a formal legal demand invoking the writ of habeas corpus, requiring the immediate delivery and release of a detained individual for judicial review. It outlines the constitutional and statutory basis for habeas corpus, the required actions to comply with this demand, and the legal consequences of noncompliance. This notice ensures protection against unlawful detention and reinforces due process rights under U.S. law. Background information and general explanation. There are two definitions for habeas corpus, one formal and the other substantive. The formal definition may be found in any law dictionary. This exhibit covers the substantive definition. The substantive definition of habeas corpus is not found in the dictionaries, but rather, in the history books. In the early days, before Magna Carta, the king had many court systems operating, e.g., courts of common pleas, exchequer, king's bench, chancery, etc. Each court had its jurisdiction defined. Of course, as an arm of government, courts are simply another form of bureaucracy with assigned functions. Like any bureaucracy, they always want to expand their jurisdictions. If a court exceeded its jurisdiction, a person could go to the proper court that should have had jurisdiction and ask for an order directing the errant court to stop its proceedings and release jurisdiction to the proper court. The phrase, habeas corpus, meaning, you have the body, was put at the end of pleadings to the second court asking that the first court be required to produce the body if it was being held. In its most common form, the full formal phrase for habeas corpus was habeas corpus ad subjudiendum. Of course, as you might surmise, that would pit one court bureaucracy against another. The habeas corpus process worked quite well because, as long as the defendant was not a common enemy to both bureaucracies, one bureaucracy would not miss any opportunity to put down a competing bureaucracy. The practical result of all this is that the defendant would often be ordered released, which was the second court's way of telling the first court that it didn't know what it was doing and had strayed from its original jurisdiction, i.e., exceeded jurisdiction. The habeas corpus, as a byproduct of bureaucratic turf protection, tended to serve personal liberty well. Over the centuries it became known as the Great Writ of Liberty. It was the only known privilege or right that became stronger with the passage of time. In summary, habeas corpus is the process of one court sitting in judgment of another court's jurisdiction. It is not a civil or criminal proceeding, but rather, it is a family fight between courts. Your name or organization. Your address. City, state, zip code. Email address. Phone number. Date. 2. Recipient's name or organization. Recipient's address. City, state, zip code. Subject. Formal notice of demand to deliver the body, writ of habeas corpus. Dear, recipient's name. Legal basis for this notice. This letter serves as a formal demand for the immediate delivery and release of the named individual under the constitutional and legal protection of habeas corpus, as recognized under Article I, Section 9 of the U.S. Constitution, 28 U.S. C. Sections 2241 to 2255, and relevant state laws. Habeas corpus is a fundamental right ensuring that no individual is unlawfully detained or deprived of their liberty without due process of law. Failure to comply with this demand constitutes a direct violation of constitutional rights and an actionable legal offense. 1. Right to challenge unlawful detention. Habeas corpus prevents imprisonment without lawful justification and allows for immediate judicial review. 2. Mandatory requirement for custodians to respond. Any person or agency holding the detained individual must provide legal justification and documentation proving the lawfulness of the detention. 3. Immediate obligation to present the detainee. The responsible entity must physically produce the individual before a competent court or authority for review. 4. Consequences for failure to deliver the body. Noncompliance with a habeas corpus demand constitutes a serious constitutional violation, subjecting responsible parties to civil and criminal liability. Immediate required actions. 1. Produce the detainee immediately. The named individual must be delivered before a competent court or legal authority without delay. 2. Provide written justification for detention. If lawful detention is claimed, verified legal documentation must be provided demonstrating due process compliance. 3. Cease and desist from further unlawful detainment. Any continued unlawful restraint shall be considered a direct constitutional violation and will result in legal action. Legal consequences for noncompliance. Failure to comply with this habeas corpus demand may result in judicial sanctions and contempt of court. Any party refusing to produce the detainee may face court-ordered penalties and legal repercussions. Civil and criminal liability. Unlawful detainment may lead to lawsuits, financial damages, and criminal charges. Public and legal scrutiny. Government agencies or officials violating habeas corpus may be subject to federal investigations, reputational damage, and constitutional challenges. This notice serves as official documentation asserting the right to habeas corpus and the demand for immediate compliance. Any attempt to deny, delay, or ignore this lawful demand shall be met with full legal enforcement. A response addressing this matter is expected no later than specific date. If further clarification is required, you may contact me at your contact information. Sincerely. Your name. Your position, if applicable. Your organization name, if applicable. Enclosures, list any attached documents,